Okay, doke. So this is probably about 2 days later. We got quite a few of the money shots done on that day. I mean that shoot. Let me put my microphone on. That shoot was incredible, and it's either called Science to the Extreme or Adrenaline Science. And if you can get that video, it was made by a company called Engel Brothers, or no, Engel Films, and ENGL, I think, Engel Films. And if you can get that documentary, you should get it. It's a fantastic documentary. So, just give me a second. I just remembered something that I do not want to forget. These things come to me. Terra Luna. That is a cool story I'm going to tell you. It's another shoot we did for German television. I think it was for ZDF. It's a big, or Germany's biggest network, I think. It was called Terra Luna, but I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, so we get out there in the next day or two. I think it was 2 days later. Conditions are still great, except the wind has changed direction. So the first day we were out there, the wind was from the southeast. And this other day, or a couple of days later, was blowing from the northwest. And that blows straight out from the sea. So where we were working with first free dive, that's on the northwest side of the island. So it was choppy, the water. So it didn't matter. Surrounding the island's all these kelp beds. So I knew one spot where the kelp was quite thick. And the kelp actually made a bay like this. And the water wasn't very deep. It was probably 10 meters deep or something, 30 feet deep. And we went and sat there, and it was dead calm because we've now protected from the kelp in this little kelp bay. And it's probably about 1 kilometer towards the shore from Dyer Island. So we get into this little bay and we start chumming, and Cliff and I are on the boat, and Cliff is chumming, I'm doing interviews, and within 20 minutes we got two females around the boat. And the one she's a biggie. She's 3.7 meters long, 3.8, around about there. Big animal. And the other one's a bit smaller. The other one's maybe 3.2 meters long. And the conditions are, excuse me, the conditions are just beautiful. It's flat, it's warm. You can see the bottom, or you can see the pebbles down there on the bottom, and you've got these two great white sharks, and I am just on. And so on this occasion, Jeff wanted to get in the water with me. Now, Jeff's an underwater cameraman, so he has experience, and he's got this big housing with him, with a Betacam camera in it. So that housing affords him a lot of protection, and he's wearing scuba gear. I'm not wearing any scuba gear. He's wearing scuba gear because, he has to go down and get shot. So the scuba tank on his back is good protection, because if a shark comes and tries to bite him from the back, it'll grab onto scuba gear and whatnot. And if it comes from the front, Jeff just has to put the camera between him and the shark. So he's pretty safe. But I first want to see how the sharks react. So I go into the water and I swim out probably about 15 meters, 45 feet from the boat, and the two sharks are there. And immediately, the large of the two is interested in me. So she comes in and she cruises in, no problem, and she looks at me and she's calm. She goes away, and then she comes back and she checks me out, and she goes down and she swims under me. And I'm in the water with her about 10 minutes. The smaller shark just makes these big circles. So the smaller shark never came closer than probably 15, 20 feet from me, never came closer. And that she would circle around like that, and she'd just circle out around the boat, and I just watched her swimming around the boat, and then she'd circle around behind me, and I watched her for about 10 minutes while the big one kept coming to check me out. So eventually I realized I don't have to keep my eye on the smaller shark. The smaller shark's not going to pose any danger to me whatsoever. I could see in her behavior, and she was just chilled. So I say to Jeff, okay, get in the water. So Jeff gets into the water and he's filming me, but the shark goes up to Jeff at one point, and Jeff wasn't expecting it to happen so quickly. So Jeff's in the water, and so he's got his camera like this, and the shark comes up like this to his camera, and Jeff is just finning back like that with his camera, but he's filming, you know. So I swim over to Jeff and I tell him, listen, just try and stay in one spot close to me, you know, not like on top of me, but, you know, 10, 15 feet from me. And I said, I'll point, and if I point, you know there's a shark behind you. I'll keep an eye on you, but don't move around. Just, you know, just try and stay stationary and film like that. Because I don't want to have to worry about where Jeff is and myself kind of thing. You've got to focus on the animal. So in any case, there's one period where, imagine those are my fins. So I'm on the surface like this, and I'm finning slowly, and she comes up, and she actually sniffs on my fins like that. She comes up and she sniffs on them, and she wants to take a nibble and a taste, but as she does it, I pull them away, and I actually use my fin to like splash in her face, not splash, but wave it in her face, and she ducks off like that, and she goes around, and it's a beautiful dive. And Cliffy's also, I'm on the surface, so Cliffy's also saying to me, Craig, smaller shark, he'll shout, Craig, smaller sharks are coming around the back of the boat. And then I know, okay, so there's a shark here behind me, and I'll glance at her and I can see her trajectory, so she's fine. And then I'll say, shark, bigger sharks coming, you know, so it's kind of a safe situation. But you never know if there's another shark that's going to come. But we with these two sharks, and we get in beautiful footage, and eventually Jeff says to me, he's got enough footage. So he gets out the water, and I think he was just too happy to get out of the water. And I can't blame the guy. I mean, he's never free dived with great white sharks, or dived with great white sharks before, and it is daunting. And if it can be very scary for a lot of people. It is very scary for a lot of people. So he just wanted to get that footage and get out of Dodge. So he got his stuff and he got out of Dodge. He got back on the boat. But I was enjoying the dive so much that I stayed there. And there was one time, and I'm in the water, and I'm fiddling with my camera. It's a Gates housing, so it's all manual settings. So I'm sitting there, and I've taken my eyes off the sharks, and I'm probably about 20 feet, 30 feet from the boat, you know, it's like, yeah. And I'm busy adjusting my camera, and I'm looking away from the boat, and I hear Cliffy shout, Craig, watch your back, watch your back. But it's not panic, you know, he's just shouting, so I hear. And what's happened, this is me in the water, and I'm facing that way. So, no, me. That's me in the water, okay? And I'm facing that way. And this big baby, she's come up like this. She's come from deep, and she comes up, and she's right behind me, like that. She's right there. So she's here, right behind my head, and she's like sneaked up on me, and Cliffy shouts me, you know, shark, Craig, shark behind you. And I got the camera like this, and I turn like this, and her eye is here, her eye is right over here, and her snout is 6 inches from my head, and she's just hovering in the water like that, like looking at me. So I turn around like this, and she's so close that I actually have to back off from her a little bit, and I take my hand and I go, bah, you know, as hard as I can under the water, and I smack her right there. I give her a smack, let me see, boom, you know, hey, behave yourself. And I smack on the snout like that, and she goes, you know, and well, this way actually, and she dives down like that, and it looks like a F-16 fighter jet, and off she goes, like that into water. And, it's so exciting. Anyway, so I get out the water, and it feels like there's sparks flying out of me. It feels like there's electricity flying out of me. Your concentration levels and your focus is so sharp when you're down in the water like that. You don't even realize it. It's only afterwards when you get out And that's what athletes and top performers, they talk about being in the zone. So I get out the water and I've just been in the zone, 100% in the zone. And the feeling is just spectacular. And it's also because we got a job to do and we getting the job done and we're doing the job. And that was it. And again, it shows you that this shark wasn't aggressive to me at all. Not once was she aggressive to me. She tried to nibble on my fins, and I've already had one of my fins ripped off by a great white shark. And she came up to investigate me. I was watching all the time, and she wanted to get very close. And she came up very close a bunch of times, but she really wanted to get close on her own terms. That's why she sneaked up behind me. And if I didn't turn around, she might have actually given me a bite. She might have gripped me on the shoulder or given me a bite on the head, which wouldn't have been very nice. You can imagine that. So anyway, they're not these man-killing monsters. And that was a beautiful story. And that was the best free dive I've ever done with great white sharks. It was wonderful. Anyway, thanks for listening to that story. And we'll listen to some more. I'll be telling some more.